Is this thing on? Hello? Hello? Oh, it says we're on. It says we're live. Okay. Howdy, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
God bless you. So we're back. We're back. And we are going to disseminate everything we read today. And I can assure you, regardless of what you see in the media, we here will not be blaming the Russians. All right. I do want to pray us in, though, after we say hello to, howdy, Jasmine. Howdy, Uncle Obvious. Howdy, Ren. Howdy, Alvina. Let's see. Oh, wow, there's another Jasmine. Oh, wait, no, it's just more talking. Okay. And then, hey, and look at that. Ashley. Howdy, Ashley.
Hey.
Okay, let's go ahead and pray us into this. Good morning, Father. Thank you very much for this opportunity to come and rest and well, worship you in your word by learning and fellowshipping with one another. And thank you for having Jasmine here today, and we're very happy for that. And we ask you to put your touch on Lynn today. Be greatly appreciated. And also the D, wherever she may be. At any rate, thank you very much. Bless everybody here. In Jesus Yeshua's name, amen. Okay. All right. So all the way back to what? Genesis 12.
Genesis 12.
So what did we anybody get anything out of chapter 12?
Oh, hang on.
That's usually my line. Okay. Yeah, I didn't. Nothing jumped out at me until verse 11, and that was when Abraham, when they're getting ready to enter Egypt, he starts taking matters into his own hand with lying.
Right.
You know, in something that he imagined in his head. Howdy, Matt. You know, oh, if we go, they're going to kill me so that they can have my wife. And doesn't look like that's what would have happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as I was reading over it, I was thinking, at the very least, that Pharaoh had an understanding of acting inappropriately and actually bringing a curse upon himself. Like, because it was clear to him, and I don't know, maybe that was something he had to learn, but it just the way that it's written, it seems that he understood that there was a boundary that you don't cross, and it actually brought something upon you, that wouldn't have been there had he not tried to take another man's wife as his own.
Right.
It's just interesting.
Right. And the curse was there too, even though he didn't know it.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And if you find it interesting, just that, Pharaoh is obviously not someone who communicates with God, who has a relationship with God at all. And yet he sees the clear problem this creates.
Right.
Where with Abraham, I mean, he takes matters in his own hands. He does what he thinks is best. It's going to protect him and his family. And he brings curses to others and causes issues in it. It's just interesting that, no matter how much we communicate with God, we get in our own way a lot of times.
Right. Yep. Been there. Done that. Made a living out of it.
And the decisions we make could inadvertently affect other people and curse them throughout.
Yeah.
it's not just us that are at stake; it's others.
Yeah.
So I say that, made a living out of it, and then what popped into my head was, dying ain't much of a living, boy. Anyways, funny the way we do those things. Anyways, that's what I had out of chapter 12. If there's anything else you have or anyone else, let me know. Talk it, speak it.
No, you're just gonna say the obvious, but oh, you wait.
I thought you were saying something.
No. I was.
State the obvious, man. Okay. Well, and then I think Pharaoh pretty much lays the blame where it properly should be, too. That, what is this you have done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Man, it's pretty interesting. That one of the other books, I don't remember, Jasher or Jubilees, talks about Abraham was widely known for teaching Yah's law, God's law, to all the peoples. So I can't remember, though, if that was before this or after this. And I think it was after this happened. Alvina, because he started experiencing curses upon his household. Where is that? In verse 17. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So things started going wrong, and the king was like, "Hey, what the world is happening here? What by Ra myself is happening?" I don't know what he said, but
Yep.
I think it's quite possible that they had a much better understanding of a physical manifestation of something spiritual, though. That's kind of how I take it, because like it might have just been more common knowledge even amongst those that didn't worship the Father, because they had their gods in their different areas. But it's almost as if they had a better understanding of spiritual law, maybe, or consequence of things that
right, or maybe the interlinking of spiritual and physical.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, because it doesn't say specifically what led Pharaoh to automatically say, "Hey, Sarai and Abram, this is the reason why." It just says his house was afflicted with great plagues because of that. So Pharaoh called to Abram, "What have you done to me?" So it doesn't. So my assumption, just reading that, is all these curses started coming immediately after, and there's that causation. He links it. This is like you're saying, Landon. Like there's a better understanding of what's going to cause these things to happen.
Right.
Different.
And it kind of, in between verse 16 and 17, it kind of implies that there was, or maybe between verse 17 and 18, that there's something left out that we don't have.
Yeah.
Of the story. Because it goes right from his house was afflicted with plagues to Pharaoh knowing what happened. All right. So that was what? That was 12.
12. Yep.
So what about 13? Anybody got something for 13? Talk to me. Talk to me.
Well, I find it interesting that when you're just through the story, you've got Abram and Lot. Clearly they've got too much to settle in one land, so they separate. Abram gives Lot first choice, so Lot finds what he finds, the most fertile of all the areas. But Abram's the one who's blessed throughout this. Lot goes and settles over where Sodom is, and eventually, that's destroyed. And so it's interesting that he finds, he takes the most fertile of it, but in the end, it's Abram the one who's blessed.
Right. Yeah, and it says, I noted that too in verse 11. He chose the Jordan Valley. Let's see, where is that? In verse 10, and Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zoar. And this was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. So thus they separated from each other. And it just makes me wonder if he didn't kind of settle in Sodom for convenience.
Yeah.
Due to its location. Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot of people do that. Well, eventually I'm going to move to these mountains here, or I'm going to have a farm here, so I'm going to move to the city that's closest by until that time. Hi, Jimmy's daughter and son.
Yeah, and then you
Asher
look
20,
at,
where that is.
you look at like Abram. I mean, he gives Lot first choice. I mean, throughout this, he says, "Hey, you take first choice," and Lot takes the selfish route. I want the best of the best. I'm going to take that.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think Abram could have easily done the same.
True. And yet we see later Abraham's given a swath of land that encompasses everything that Lot had.
Yep.
I'll tell you what jumped out at me was people just can't get along. I mean, like they were good with one another, but all the people in their charge just, I don't know. I started thinking about like what kind of strife that they had. Were they arguing because of the Canaanites and the Perizzites were also in the land, and maybe some of them wanted to war against them, and the other ones were like, no, we wait on the Lord. You know what I mean? And just I was trying to visualize all that, and I even noticed in school and all that, more than 3 people hanging out with one another, and it just somebody starts something, and it's just kind of tough, but that's what jumped out at me anyway.
Another thing jumps out at me here is you start seeing later on when the laws start to be established on how the flocks are within land, and how they plant, and you have to give land rest and whatnot. I wonder if there's just at the time there's just an understanding, we've got too much here, we're going to destroy this land if we all stay here. And they start taking, I mean, clearly they've got a better understanding of the land at that time than we do now. I mean, we just oversaturate things, but there's a clear understanding of this is how we should, if we want this land to continue to thrive and be successful for us. So I wonder if between the two of them, they realize this is not working out.
Out of what Landon was saying, maybe that is something that was instilled in us at Babel to get us constantly moving and separating, right? Because they were trying to keep the people from gathering in one spot. If there's this constant pricking at our heart, man, that guy's a jerk, I need to go to another place to be away from him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Howdy, KC. Anyways, what anything else from 13? That was a pretty short chapter, actually.
Yeah, it was.
What about 14? What do we got going on there?
Quite a bit. And some names that I struggled with the whole chapter. And Melchizedek, well, I know this, I'm jumping to the end, but that I've done some some not necessarily studies, but I've watched some reviews on it of people that have at least an understanding of. But that's a title, correct? I mean, from my learning and research, because Melchizedek is in different parts of the Bible, and this is what the basis of the person was going off of. But he, like, if you put it on certain timelines, he's like hundreds of years apart throughout the Bible. And so in my studies, I was just told in some of the reviews that it was actually a title and not a specific person. It would be like king. You know what I mean? It wasn't like one king of a place forever, you know?
Well, it's interesting because it's Hebrews 6 and 7 where it's covered talking about Jesus is the high priest of the order after Melchizedek, and in that same vein, he's the king of Salem, which is a variant of Jerusalem.
Hmm.
So I don't know, that it ties together most definitely. What does J-Roo mean?
It mentions that pit as well, that the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fell in as they were fleeing.
The human
Yeah, that's like the tar pit.
tar pits, like the La Brea tar pits.
Right. We went over that last week, I think. Okay.
Yep, pitch. Yeah, I find that kind of fascinating. Pretty soon somebody will pull them out of there and say, look, it's proof we came from monkeys.
Well, but were they killed in it, or did they just get stuck?
I don't know, man. I think it's probably pretty much like a sticky trap.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who used to live around the La Brea tar pits, or if anybody still does, let us know. How sticky is that?
Give it a try. Jump in.
Excuse me. All right. Yeah, I noticed I was looking at the same thing there, 17 through 20, where he is blessed by Melchizedek, right? Abram is blessed by blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And look what the king of Salem brought out: bread and wine.
Right.
Yep.
All right.
I was just looking over the second part of 21. Why the king of Sodom? Why he was like, well, give me the people and the persons, but take the goods for yourself. Was he trying to thank him for, or why did he want was it to devote them to like destruction? Obviously not to the Lord the same way that God commanded people, or was he just trying to, I don't know, it just kind of, I don't know what it is.
Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. Mm-hmm. So basically, give me the people you rescued, but everything you captured, you keep it.
Right.
That's when he rebukes him. And notice this is after Abram gave a tenth, right, a tithe to Melchizedek. But he told the king of Sodom, nope, not going to happen.
Yeah.
So there's something there.
Yeah.
There's something in between that, because he gave the tenth to Melchizedek, but then the king of Sodom, he said, I'm not keeping anything. It's almost like a temptation, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you worship me, I'll give you all this. Hi, Penelope. Jeru means teaching. So Jerusalem equals teaching peace is what Penelope says. All right. Interesting. Now that puts in a whole nother twist to when they cry peace, peace. Could that be everybody crying Jerusalem, Jerusalem? Is that right? We on 15? No, we're still on 14. Oh, let's go to 15. What do we got in there? I didn't take any notes in 15.
I promise. I mean,
I can't even find 15. Oh, there we go. Oh, talking about the covenant being made.
Yep.
So it's basically the promise that the Father's giving Abram. Howdy, Vitali.
cool.
Howdy at the fire of Yah.
I was
Did you
waiting.
get messed up with the daylight savings time? What's going on? I would just like to advertise Arizona does not piddle around with switching clocks forward and backwards. So anybody that wants to maintain a level of sanity.
I think I may need to move to Arizona.
Yeah.
It messes you up for a good week, maybe 2.
I'm convinced it's a control issue.
Yeah.
What I noticed it, sir. I don't remember if it's at the beginning of it or towards the end, but you'll go out at lunchtime and the sun will not be right above you. And I was thinking, why don't they do that from midday? Like it makes, because there's a few days in the year where you go out at 12 o'clock and there's a shadow. And I'm like, so they're not, anyway. But it doesn't make any sense. I agree.
All right. We need some scary music to enter in there.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. Well, there was no reason to have it anyways in the first place.
Right.
They said, oh, well, it's so farmers can know when to get up and water their crops, like a farmer wasn't getting up for the previous thousands of years, knowing when to work the field because the sun's up.
And they would have set it back, not forward, to give them longer day, if anything.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of spring forward.
Right.
Spring forward, follow back.
Right. So it was for, yeah.
I know they probably just see Congress sitting around arguing about it. Yeah. You know what they say? If you want to make the Sahara Desert a lush paradise, put Congress in charge of sand. Yeah. Anyways, all right. So 15, we have the promises.
Yep.
16, we got a repeat of kind of what happened with Abraham's working, except this time it's Sarai. You know what? Why don't you just, you know what God meant? This is what God meant. He didn't mean I was going to have a baby. He meant for you to have my maidservant.
We saw all the trouble that caused.
Yeah, caused some trouble.
I mean, she tells him to do it. Granted, he was the idiot that did it,
Right?
and then no one's happy in the end.
Yeah. Well, except Ishmael, maybe. Yeah.
Took a little while, but yeah.
Can you picture? I don't know. I just kind of picture Abraham going, "What? Well, okay. That if you insist."
If you're gonna twist my arm, sure.
Right. Yeah, that's well, you know what I was thinking though? There was a spirit of something that planted this in her head. And it was the spirit of fear that she wasn't gonna have any kids. And I just reminded me of Eve bringing the fruit to Adam because it's, you know, this good thing. And so it just kind of, it's not exactly the same, but it reminded me of that because she was afraid. She wanted, you know, a child. And so her worldly solution was to say, well, if we can't have a baby, then, you know, let's do it this way. And then it didn't turn out the way that she imagined it. And it, you know,
Right.
so it just reminded me of that. It made more sense in my head. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. All right. Anybody else got something from 16? I like the. This is something a lot of people overlook, but there was a promise given to Hagar that Ishmael would be a great nation.
Right.
I think, I mean, something that's overlooked as well is, I mean, Abraham, his offspring was going to be blessed.
Right.
So you've got two different ways that it was blessed. One was through Hagar. The other was through, you know, Sarah. There's a blessing both ways, but we see, you know, as generations have unfolded, there is a consequence to that. But in general, both have been blessed and both have continued to grow, and the offspring of his can't be counted.
Right. Well, they certainly are scattered all over. All over the place. All right.
So the name of that beer, it's in verse 14, 15. Beer La Roy. It translates to well of the living one that sees me, a place in the desert. I just wanted to look that up because that's where Hagar saw the angel of the Lord, and so that's why they named it the well of the living one who sees me.
Right.
Anyway.
Got the dog making weird noises around here. Okay, what about 17?
The fun chapter. I thought that I wondered how. I know that the people in his charge were probably they believed in God as well, but I just wonder, you know, kind of living and doing good and kind of being a shepherd's man or whatever, and then all of a sudden Abram comes to you and says, all right, well, this is a part of the covenant. That's pretty steep. I don't know. I don't know how well that went over.
Right. Well, yeah, that's kind of a big one. Hey, look at what I'm doing to myself, and if you want to keep your job, you're good.
Right. It's dedication.
Right? That just make sure it's a sharp knife. Okay, so let's go on to Isaiah here.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we had ladies helping us read today, they'd have all sorts of commentary on that. Okay, Isaiah 40. Let's see here. I know it. Got it. There it is. All right. What do you have? Dog attack. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, the only thing that jumped out at me was in 30 and 31. Well, I guess 29 through that whole thing. But 30 and 31, even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. And that just reminded me, like I was telling you in the break, that reminded me of these like little old ladies in churches that are just like, go, go, go all the time.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting in just the context of how this is structured. So when you go back to the verse before that, you go back to 28, it talks about the Lord is everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. So it kind of puts into context he has the ability. He can say who grows faint, who doesn't. And he also has the authority to give those the strength to renew their strength. He's the only one who has that authority. He doesn't say anyone else. It says even the youth shall grow faint and weary. Everyone will, but God has the ability to renew their strength.
Yep. And that I was watching something. They were making this analogy of. Actually, I think it might have been C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. Those little animations talking about how men can come up with all these great solutions and start to implement them, but it always gets corrupted at some point, and doesn't work out, never does. And that's because they try to do it without our Father, who's our creator. And it's he created us to have him.
Right.
He's the fuel that we need to run on. And when we keep him first in our life, we do good.
Yeah.
Well, if all things are for his glory, either we can glorify him in whatever it is that we're doing, or he could be glorified in that said thing's destruction, that his promises and the things that he's kept. So it's just something to think about. But we're so trained in to be carnally minded by the world itself. A lot of times we just kind of forget,
Right? The fire of Yah says, chapter 41, verses what? 9 and 10, and then 13 and 14. So 9 is, you whom I took from the ends of the earth and called from its farthest corners, saying to you, you are my servant. I have chosen you and not cast you off. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And then 13 and 14 is, for I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, I am the one who helps you. Fear not, you worm Jacob, you men of Israel. I am the one who helps you, declares the Lord. Your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. Okay, so what about that there? Fire of Yah. The fire of Yah. What were your observations on that?
One thing I see out of that, and this is just throughout even this entire passage in Isaiah, and is, you know, the constantly God reminding of us of his authority. He has the authority to say these things, and he has to constantly remind his people what he can do and what he is doing for us, not just this is who I am. It's who I am, and I'm doing these things to you. I am giving you your strength. I am granting you what you need to bless your people. It's not us, it's God that's doing that for us.
Right.
I agree.
Yep.
Sorry, yeah. He's the one that has it all under his control. Agreed.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, it's that he's the fuel. Let's see here. So yeah, someone's asking about the worm there. Okay, it's Tolah or Toleah or Toleath. The word, it's Hebrew 3216, a maggot, as voracious, specifically often with the ellipse of 8144, the crimson grub, but used only in this connection of the color from it, and cloths dyed therewith, crimson scarlet worm. And I've seen that connection with, I want to say it's one of the Psalms where it's talking about Yeshua, Jesus, saying, I am a worm. And it uses that same word. Yeah, but that's where they get the scarlet dye, or the scarlet that they use for that dye. But the other way around, the dye they use for that scarlet.
I don't get it.
And that something else that I noticed that just crossed my mind while we were reading that. Right? I took you from the ends of the earth and called you from its farthest corners. Just saying. Corners, edges, ends.
What are you getting at?
Nothing. Nothing, man. Just relax. Okay. Anybody else got anything from Isaiah? Chapters that we read. No, so I had to throw that in there real quick. Towards the end of it, right? 15 and 16. I make of you a threshing sledge, new, sharp, and having teeth. You shall thresh the mountains and crush them. You shall make the hills like chaff, which is the part of the wheat when you harvest wheat and you shovel it up in the air, the stuff that blows away.
Mhm.
You shall winnow them, and the wind shall carry them away. The mountains. All right. Let's go to Juan. It's Spanish for John. All my brethren out there in sisterin. Landon, you're growing a second head, man. What the?
It's kind of funny whenever we open up in prayer, and I'm muted, but he came up behind me and he was laying his paws on me. I said, well, maybe he is, he's joining. Anyway, all right, boy. He just wants attention. Just wants attention.
That from John, I get the same thing. I mean, he's telling him exactly what's going to come happening and who he is.
Yep.
And they scoff and mock. They scoff and mock and scoff.
He explains his authority again. He explains, why he has the authority to say this. And again, yet they mock him. They don't want to believe it.
And elsewhere in Scripture, where he rails the accusation against them, you killed the prophets. And it's not an accusation. He's telling the truth, right? You killed the prophets. But right here, they're like holding the prophets up.
Mm-hmm.
The prophets, what is it they say? The prophets died too. Not we killed the prophets, but they died too. And just the way that whole thing breaks down right there kind of reminds me of a modern entity that attaches the word saint before certain names of people that they were responsible for tracking down and killing because they were followers of Jesus, Yeshua. And then 150, 200 years later, they say, that was such a good person.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make him a saint.
And
They're the saint of plumbing. So if you don't get into heaven on your own good works, they'll let you through the piping. They'll let you up through the sewer.
Yeah. But if you think about that, it turns the person into an idol. It makes them
Idol.
right.
Yep. The idolatry.
That's the last thing that they would want to be if they were who they said that they are.
Right.
That's the last thing. So
look how uncomfortable people get with just being called a teacher. They're like, no. Let alone a saint that's been, impaled or whatever.
One thing I found in this, I'm just curious about is it says you're not yet 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham? I wonder if there's something about the 50 years old, like if there's a certain about that particular age that within the culture at the time meant they had some kind of authority, because clearly no one had seen Abraham, on Earth at this time. So why would they even throw out 50 years old? I'm just wondering if that means like until you're 50, you don't have the authority to be a teacher. You don't have the authority to say anything based on what how they dictate.
I think there's something to it. There's because that age, somewhere around that age, mid 40s to the mid 50s or 50, just to round it off. But there's for the American Revolution, you always hear about the Minutemen. But then those were the youngest group of people. So they were like 18 up through their late 20s. And then the next group of people were the people that were kind of in charge of managing them, kind of keeping them in reined in. And then the next group is that older group of people, mid 40s to mid 50s. And they were the ones that kind of said, okay, you take your group of Minutemen over here and line up with this other guy's group of Minutemen and do this or that.
God bless you.
Thank you.
This is what I was. One, I got it stuck in my head in Jesus's time of somebody getting an over the hill birthday party, like isn't that at 50? But wasn't it some of the Levite priests or someone were to retire at the age of 50? There's something.
The Levites that were in charge of protecting the temple were.
I believe so.
That was their cutoff date, and it wasn't. This answers his question. Fire of Yah. The fighting age was 20 and up, but for the temple, I want to say it was 30 to 50. It was a 20-year span that they were allowed to protect the temple, and that is an interesting time range there, age range, because by 30, most of your impulsive stupidity is gone. And after 50, your fighting tenacity and ability starts that slow decline. So basically the best of the best of the best, right? To protect the temple. And Michelle says 7 times 7 is 49. Is 49 or 50 considered the Jubilee year? 50 is the Jubilee year. So that's another way to look at it. You haven't even hit your Jubilee year. What do you know? What? You're squeaking again, Landon.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are you a ventriloquist? But yeah, there's a lot in that little verse right there, that little section.
I also think that he was absolutely starting a fire when he said, Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Even as we were reading it, I don't know, I could just almost feel the anger of them looking at him when he said that, yeah. So.
Yep. Yeah, Vitali, he says, the statues of the saints in the Vatican were pagan lowercase gods. They just changed the names. It's only a veneer of Christianity. They still worship Apollo and all the old demons, demonia. Demon is the same word that we get the root from demonstrate.
Seeing a lot of that. It's making more sense as
right? And the words like demonstrable. I don't know. It reminds me of the Tasmanian devil.
It was also like common practice back, back in the day to whenever you took over a land or something to break down all the idols and then put up, the statues of their gods or the ones that they worshipped. And the things there that he's talking about were never taken down. They were just, named
right
to be someone else. They're Roman statues.
Yeah, it's a amazing thing they got set up. Generational scamming. Ew, they had to replace. They had to replace the toe of one of the statues. People had kissed it off during the centuries.
Yeah, it has a dullness to the foot. If you, I forget, I think it's supposed to be Peter, but people travel from all over the world and wait in line to kiss the foot of this golden statue, and you can clearly see it in pictures that where everyone puts their mouth is ruined down. But I didn't know he lost a toe.
Well, have you seen the what was it in the Kaaba in Mecca? Right, the big black cube, and in one corner edge of it, they have a stone that supposedly fell from heaven, a meteorite or something.
Right.
But they kiss that thing too, and it's in the shape of a woman's hoo-ha. And so we're kissing whatever, Mother Creator or whatever. I mean, it's all the same one world false religion, just whatever the trappings. I mean, they have the same thing as rosary beads to count their prayers, count off their prayers. People have likened the call to prayer that they do to the chants done by the monks,
Who also had prayer beads?
who also use prayer beads.
Mm.
Yep.
Mm.
The covering up of certain women, like cover that up. Okay. Anyways, what about the mezuzah? I think that's really close to the manicotti. That's the tube they fill with the cheese, and then they put the sauce on top. We touch it, not kiss it. Who's kissing them? What?
There you go in there. I don't know what a mazua is. Mazua?
No, either.
Won't take long. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm not using a mezuzah. So,
I didn't know that was a thing. But I mean, I would say the way that I was raised in a private school and all that, but my grandparents had a crucifix at the door, and I would always just kiss my hand and touch it before as I was walking out or coming in until I actually had a real relationship with God. So I mean, when I saw that, that's what it made me think of. If it sits right next to the door, it's sort of no image of anything.
right? No image of anything. And all throughout Scripture, we can see where Yah's people were told, if you don't do these things, I'm going to bring your enemies in and get it done. And then, what do we have going on today? We have hordes traveling around and destroying idols. But what does everybody do? Right? I mean, you got people in the church who say, that's just destroying the treasures of mankind that shows their history.
They're idols. They need to be destroyed.
Yeah, it's a stinker. Jonathan the Fourth, what? Oh, exclamation points. Okay. Never mind. All right. Anybody else got anything from anything we read today? That you ever seen like the little children in school? They tell them, some teachers, they don't yell. They'll just say, if you can hear my voice, clap once. And then like the nearest kids will clap. And then if you can hear my voice, clap twice. And by that time, the whole class is in on it. Batali, beads are spoken against in the Bible. I can't remember where at the moment. Beads have been used by the pagan and mystery religions since almost straight after the flood. And they've been used to steal land from people too.
I'll tell you, I did looking at something. I don't remember how I got into this study, but in the ancient world, especially in like Arabia, they're highly against depicting like any of the gods or Muhammad or anything like that. They don't. That's against that. You just don't depict them. But what they would do was they would use shapes, and when I saw that they had that prayer room in the UN, that black cube, according to some of the beliefs over there, that represents Ares, the god of war. And I just found that interesting that was at the, you know what I mean? It's the United Nations piece. And in this room that's supposed to be a prayer room is a depiction in some parts of the world to the god of war. It's just interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you got the time, everybody look up on YouTube. There used to be videos about it. Although it seems some of them have disappeared, about the one world black cube religion. And they make connections all across the planet throughout history. And to places that are where the largest religions are centered today. All right. So it's not manicotti. All right. Anybody got nothing? Anything? Something? Open discussion. What are we going to talk about?
Cheese?
I'm sorry. Did you say cheese?
Didn't you say something about cheese a second ago?
Cheese? That. What do you want to talk about cheese? Come on.
No, I mean I'm kidding, but I will say that someone that my family used to they went to study abroad on horseshoeing Clydesdales with the Amish, and they make a mean cheese.
That's
Best
awesome.
cheese I've ever had in my life.
I didn't even know Clydesdales could make cheese.
I don't think they can, but I think they turn with their hooves or something. You know? I'm making all that up, but the Amish make the cheese.
All right.
And something about it. It's really rich in flavor. We're so used to things that are processed that when you actually have something that's handmade, it's so much.
It's rich.
Right.
Yeah. There's a farm that used to be backed by my grandparents' farm, and they had a country store also, but they made their own cheese, and it was really good cheese. It was delicious.
There's a farm not too far from us. We can get we haven't gotten as much of it lately, but we can get raw milk and cheese made from the raw milk. I mean, it's got you got to shake the milk up. You don't, it's a little gross, but just the naturalness of it, it definitely has a much better flavor.
Yeah. Well, the stuff with the way that, because I work at a distribution center, but the place next to us that handles milk, and it's unrelated. But we used to get milk from all local places. And so I heard. I didn't work there before, and like I said, it's a different entity. But they used to get all local farmers and their milk, and it would come straight there, and milk was better. Well, anyway, long story short, the trucks pick up the milk. They send it to Georgia. They mix it with some more milk. It comes back, and then it's processed and sold to locally. And that's just I don't know. I'm not really big on milk, but it's just weird. It's just why makes no sense.
Yep. I mean, a lot of states you can't even drink raw milk. It's illegal.
I know.
Thankfully, we've got some around here.
Yeah, they've done SWAT raids in Minnesota and Michigan, I think, and also in California. SWAT raid for raw milk.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Now we can't cross borders, but we can get it here at least. It's interesting. You can one batch of the mix can be a little different just depending on what the cows eat. But,
right. I don't know, the way he sat up like that, it looked like he made that noise. Anyway. Daimon. Listening. Anyways, that's pretty fascinating the way it's devolved, and I've read from multiple sources and heard from multiple people that if you have a lactose intolerance, that you can get raw milk and you don't have an issue with it, or cheese made from raw milk.
Yep.
And I'm surprised talking about all this milk and raw milk and stuff that Lynn hasn't jumped into the conversation. She's probably yelling at her computer screen. I
wonder if there's a correlation with pro-abortion states, and because I'm thinking here, if the state argues for the right to kill an infant in the womb, or a brand new baby, then are some of those same states tied to you can't have raw milk? Because that whole double-edged sword thing that I was talking to you about earlier, it's like, if you're saying it's somebody's right to choose, and this has always been my argument, because usually people just if it's really about a person's right to have control of their own body, why is not it's as bad as this is, but suicide or drug abuse, or why is it all about taking the life? But then in some of those same states, you can't have raw milk. So you know what I mean? It's just I don't know. I'd have to look into that, but I just wonder if there's a correlation with that, because if they're arguing that you can do that, then why can't I drink milk if it's my right to choose? You know what I mean?
Right.
They pick and choose what we have rights for.
Right.
And clearly, when you have an argument with somebody, they've got an opinion, and if their opinion's right, it's all about their rights. But if it's wrong, then you're impeding on their rights.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because that affects everybody, Matt. Quit being selfish. Shut up and take the needle.
It only works if everybody gets it.
That's my favorite. And the thing is, you can talk to really intelligent people too, and say, because it used to be just right. Well, this is exactly how it used to be. If you don't get vaccinated, you're going to get sick and die. Right? But now, if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to make the vaccinated people sick and die. But wait, why am I still healthy then?
But how do you make the vaccinated people sick and die if they've been vaccinated against the thing that's supposed to make them sick and die?
Right?
Even my argument against it is when these people are just at random. I say these people, but when someone brings it up in conversation, how an anti-vaxxer is a dumb person or something. I don't go with the whole there's these stories of these children that were born normal and all. I mean, because they're not even going to respond to that well, or they're just going to reject it. I go, all right, here's the thing. 2020, we're coming on, and there are certain vaccinations that they say that they have to have aborted fetal cells in them to work. That the vaccination doesn't work without dead children inside the vaccination. How is that? Like, that makes no sense at all, and it's evil, and I don't want it in my body. I'm trying to understand how the science of, you know what I mean? So
if you take one of these intelligent people down to Haiti and have them chop up a live chicken and a live pig and bleed a child's foot into there and then tell them to eat that raw just like that, they're going to say, you're crazy. I'll get sick from eating all that stuff. No, it's going to make you stronger. It'll make you stronger and have the attributes of that pig and that chicken and that child that you bled into it. Right? But then you take that same person and say, I'm not going to get vaccinated. And they're going to go, what are you, crazy? Well, wait, it's the same stuff. It's pig ingredients and chicken ingredients and human ingredients all live.
Right.
What's the difference? Because one guy has on a lab coat and doesn't have a bone through their nose, and that.
Yeah. Well, I was speaking with someone that's in the medical field, and they were talking about how a lot of the people in this ER were getting the flu, and I'm like, but didn't y'all all just get something for that? And they said, oh, well, it doesn't cover that flu virus. It just, and I'm like, so why did you do it though? I mean, if everybody's getting the flu and you're still worried about getting the flu, and they're like, well, they gave us a pin that we get to put on our shirt. It's just strange to me when people are handing out vouchers for money. Well, they'll pay you to take something. There's something nothing is free. And
yeah.
I mean, you're usually being paid for a service. I don't know. It just critical thinking here. No.
Like you said, nothing is free.
Nothing is free. Especially not 2.5 packages of cookies.
Yeah,
all right.
Like $5.
Anyway. Did that come across? Could you hear that voice from the kitchen?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I totally forgot where I was going. That was fun, though. I'd rather eat a steak than get vaccinated.
Me too.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, well, what if your vaccination involves injecting ground up steak up your nostril? Huh?
No.
Oh, right. She said that 2.5 packages of cookies are only like $5. So quit complaining.
That's the Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah. Unless yeah, you don't want a T-bone up your nose, that's for sure. All right, everybody. We are going to close this broadcast down, but thank you very much, Colby and Landon, for helping read. Any of y'all, if you want to read, let us know, and we'll squeeze you in. We can have a whole bunch of people on here reading. But anyways, love you all. Thank you very much. And we will see you for the next reading.
Bye.